All right. So welcome to Murray Amateur Radio Club. This is our beginners topics meeting, which I thought since we had the shakeout last month, that we would go ahead and review what we learned from that, if anything. And I will say that the club has participated in the shakeout before. I know Steve told me that a couple of years ago, he at least followed the fire truck around and provided emergency comms for them, and Dan was here at the EOC.
Oh, that's cool.
So I know that that happened at one point. It did not happen this time because we only had a couple of people interested in participating. And
I wish I was retired.
I understand, obviously, you know, it's a weekday, people are at work, it's kind of hard. So I'm not upset about it or anything like
I
that.
kind of
but-
understand them doing it in the middle of the week because when the earthquake hits, it's not gonna wait for Sunday,
Well, and
you know?
they are typically your city organizations, your existing organizations where the people are working during the week, right? So
Yeah.
it's easier for them to say, hey, let's do this during the week. And then
Somebody sitting here, my wife. Is she?
she is, I don't see it.
Is she really? She is, okay. I thought you pulled my-
She ever
gets her butt down here.
There's a spot here and two others there.
There.
Yep, yep, right here.
So actually, I have more people show up tonight than I thought. we were going to.
cooler if we let you guys use the fire truck.
Well,
Eventually.
eventually, we may be able to work that in a real live emergency, that may be the case.
Yeah, I think so because
So-
it'd be kind of hard, but I think a fire truck would get more places than a vehicle that if you were trying to follow them.
So what the city did for this event was they did the drop, cover, and hold on drill. So wherever they were when the flag went up, everybody was supposed to drop, get under their desk or under some heavy table or something where they would be theoretically safe from collapsing debris or whatever. And then once the actual simulated event was complete, which is probably what, a minute or so, then my understanding was that the fire crews were supposed to do their windshield survey, which if you see on the wall over there, we have this map of Murray City that says earthquake target areas and routes. That is the windshield survey routes. And so each station has a route that they are supposed to drive to check on various points. And the points that they check on are population points, specifically the elementary schools. They check on the like the power substations to make sure that they're not on fire or having any kind of weird problems. And they check on some city facilities. So to ensure that everything is okay there. And then they ultimately end up back at the station, theoretically. I didn't see the truck go anywhere. So I don't know if they actually did or not,
Phantom
There
truck.
was a simulation.
but maybe they simulated the windshield survey. I don't know. But that's what they call it, as a windshield survey. They have a little chart in the cab of the truck that they are supposed to pull out and follow this procedure. Now, in an actual event, chances of them actually being able to do that are pretty slim, because, for example, the first thing 83 is supposed to do is go down 59th that way. And if that bridge is collapsed, well, that's not going to happen, right? So,
Well, I look at these like these nice big old power lines that we have on this road. You know, it's like, that's what I worry about, because that thing's tall enough to probably hit my house and it's on the other side of the road.
and it's pretty juiced up. Those are
Oh, yeah, it's gonna
those are
have
the
some juice
heavy
going through
high
it,
tension
too.
lines that are up here. So I think these ones have, what would you say, Gordon, 300,000, 330?
3 to 5.
Yeah, so somewhere in that
Oh,
range.
big
So
tall ones.
Yeah. They're at least 300, I think.
yeah, at least 300,000 volts, right? So
Just
Um,
look at the length of the insulators, and if you're distancing it that far from anything else, it's because it's at a pretty strong field.
yeah.
Yeah.
So-
You work near.
So our role as Murray Amateur Radio Club, we've kind of taken on this role of having someone go to the safe neighborhood schools. And we'll talk about the safe neighborhood program in a minute. But so what we did as a club is we went to each of the schools, and the schools are supposed to have what they call a JIT kit, a just-in-time kit. And somebody went to each one of the elementary schools in Murray and confirmed that, yes, they have their JIT kit. They know where it is. They know what it's for. And that was the thing that we were mainly interested in. Now, some of the people,
So is there someone there that's gonna use the kit, or is that up to someone like us, would we come in and?
we're going to talk about it.
I just didn't, no, I mean, I didn't know.
No, yeah, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what the purpose of the JIT kit is.
Right.
And what it's for. But yeah, so we'll go through our observations and analysis, and then we'll talk about what's in the JIT kit. We'll talk about what's going on there. So, all right. So this is the Shakeout webpage here. As you can see, they have not updated it since the 2022 one, which is good because it just happened on April 21st. They also said that you could have your Shakeout drill any day of the year. And they suggested an online drill because of COVID-19. So there's a ton of information on this site. This is shakeout.org/Utah. And there are other states that are involved in the Shakeout as well, right? So it's not restricted to just Utah. They have, the different regions and the different states and territories that are participating or participated in the Shakeout nationally. So if you look at this drop down, you can see Alaska, Samoa, Arizona, BC,
So the majority of them, they did it on that day that
that's,
the main.
that was the plan, right? So now admittedly, some groups and some organizations chose to do it on a different day. And we'll talk about that in a minute too. But yeah, so the idea is, hey, let's be prepared. Let's be ready for this to happen. And this is part of the Be Ready Utah initiative, right? We know the most likely national or physical disaster that's likely to befall us here in Utah is an earthquake. We're very unlikely to have a major flooding or hurricane event. We have had tornado events in the past, so that is a possibility. But the most likely event that's going to happen to us is going to be an earthquake. And so they have things down here like Utah earthquake scenarios. There's a lot of good information on here. Earthquake guide for people with disabilities. That's critical to my family because my wife is an oxygen user. She has a lot of health issues. And so we have to be cognizant of the fact, what happens if the power goes out for an extended period of time? What are our options there, right? So they also talk about, key earthquake safety, accessibility tips, and basically just some things that you might want to know. There's a lot of good information on here under this resources tab that I highly recommend anybody who's even remotely interested in being prepared, go and check this out. There's some good information on here. Utah Preparedness Now film. There's drill manuals, planning documents, lots of good information here. Plus a bunch of multimedia and things that will help you with understanding what to do. And then information in PDFs that you can print out and have on hand, that tells you what to do in the event of an occasion like this, right? So check it out. A lot of good information on here, definitely worth looking at. Now, our checkout of the JIT kits at the school. So I produced this report that we submitted to the fire department, and we basically went through, and I'll just run through this real quick. So each station or each elementary school was inspected. The participants were Steve, KG7GIT, Gary, KK7DIR, me, Brad, Sam, and Sherwood. We're all participants in this event, right? So we took some time out. Now, Sherwood did it the night before, the 21st. He went late in the afternoon, the day before. The rest of us, I believe, all went on the day. So Steve and Gary checked out Parkside. The staff there was very aware of it. They located the kit and they actually went through it and checked to make sure that everything was there that was supposed to be there. So that was good. Hi, come on in. Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Welcome.
Thank you.
We don't
Um,
take attendance anymore.
I don't
Oh.
pay attention anymore. So it's
She's in the back anyway, so you're good. You're good. No, you're good. Go ahead. She's already sat down, so she's not getting back up. So, I'm Jan Peterson, by the way, KD7ZWV. Welcome to the Marianne Radio Club. I hope that's where you hope to be.
Yes.
So, are you a ham radio operator or do you
No,
want?
I'm a wannabe.
Okay.
Dan talked to her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I really
Awesome.
do, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we're just going through the Great Utah Shakeout, which was last month. It was a simulated earthquake where the various organizations around the city figured out and practiced what they would do in the event of an actual earthquake. And so the club participated in that by visiting each of the elementary schools, which are supposed to have a safe neighborhood JIT kit. And I'm just going through the list of schools here, talking about what our findings were. So,
Well, thanks for bringing it up to speed. Sorry to interrupt.
no, you're good. You're good. Don't worry about it. So Woodstock, Sam and Brad checked in there and the staff knew what the kit was. They knew where it was and the kit was in the office underneath the counter. So that was fine. Twin Peaks, Sam and Brad checked that out. The staff figured out what it was after some prompting and they knew where it was located. It was in classroom number 1, which is their storage room. Brad, did you want to elaborate on that? You're laughing to yourself back there. Okay, so Sherwood went to McMillan and the staff knew where the box was located and what it was for. And they also advised him that they inspected their kit annually. So Sherwood took a look through it and verified that the contents were all present. Steve and Gary checked on Longview. The staff there was aware of what it was and what it was for. They checked the contents and everything looked to be in order. I went to Liberty. The office staff knew what the kit was and where it was. It was across the hall from the office in their workroom area underneath the counter. And so you can see it right here underneath this counter. I also went to Grant. Grant, I had a little different experience. When I walked in there, the staff had no idea what I was talking about. And so they were really puzzled. And at the time they were doing an assembly and the principal was in the assembly and they said, well, can you come back in an hour? And so I'll be back, I said. And so I went on to Viewmont. We'll come back to Grant in a minute. I went on to Viewmont and I walked in there and they said, oh yes, it's right there. And they pointed through the window from the office and it was right across the hall from the office in the main hallway of the school, sitting right there in plain sight, right next to their, I assume this is their lost and found bin. So yeah, they knew exactly what it was, knew what it was for and where it was. I went into Horizon and the office staff there didn't know anything about it. The principal was in a meeting, but they got her on the radio and asked her if she knew about it. And she said, yes, I know about it. It's here in the meeting room underneath the conference table. I know where it is. I know what it is and where it is. So the principal knew about it, but the rest of the staff at the school did not know anything about it. So I went back to Grant and I was able to talk to the principal who said the custodian knows all about it. And he's in the lunchroom right now. So I went into the custodian and I said, hey, I'm looking for the JIT kit. And he said, oh yes, I know where it is. It's up on the stage. So at the back of the auditorium area, the gym, they have a stage and it was up on the stage behind the main curtain, like back in a corner. So not super obvious or easy to get to, right? Hey, Ragnar, come on in. Ragnar's gonna get a good chair, so.
Oh, yeah.
So in summary, all the schools had the kits. All the schools had at least one person who knew what the kit was and where it was. Several schools had the kits in a prominent location. Several schools had the staff who actually knew what it was and what it was for. At some schools, I mentioned in here that the kit was unknown, relatively unknown, only known about by the principal or at Grant, the custodian. And those schools had their kits in a relatively obscure location. So that was a concern to me. And my recommendation to the fire department was that it would be useful for the purpose of the kit to be reintroduced to the school staff. all of the staff should know about the kit. I think the teachers should all know about the kit. The office staff should know about the kit. Obviously, the principal should know about the kit. Anybody who works at that school should know where it is. So. So that was our findings. And I suggested that it may be helpful to reintroduce the concept of the Safe Neighborhoods Kit at the district level. So Nick took that information and is going to run with it. Nick is our emergency coordinator for the city, and he has been tasked with keeping track of all this kind of stuff. So however, yes, Tiffany,
Will you be going over what the JIT kit is?
I will in just a second.
I don't want to rush you.
Nope.
Quick question. How
Yes.
many of these school elementaries are in Murray School District and how many of them are in Granite School District?
All but 2 of them are in Granite. The 2 that are not in Granite are in Cottonwood, and they are Woodstock and Twin Peaks. You wanted to know which ones were in Murray District. Sorry, I mean,
Yeah.
Woodstock and Twin Peaks are in Granite. The rest are all in Murray School District. That's what I meant to say. But they all serve Murray. They're all located within the Murray city limits. So
According to Dan, there should be a JIT kit in every elementary in Salt Lake County.
that is my understanding. And they have asked us at some point, I don't know if all of you have received one of these little thumb drives that Dan was passing out a couple of meetings ago. There's a ton of information on here, and there's supposed to be one of these for each of the schools in the county. So the Salt Lake County Aries has put this together. There's a bunch of resources on this drive that we are supposed to make sure that one of these is in each JIT kit. So at some point, they will be issuing a bunch of envelopes to us that have the name of the school on them, and we can run them around and drop them on.
Dan also told me there should be a sticker on the front door of each school saying there's JIT kit here and where it is.
I did
He
not
told me
see that.
After I looked.
Yeah, I did not see that. I believe the people at Viewmont pointed the sticker out to me, or pointed something out to me on the door that said safe neighborhood on it. So I don't know if it said where the kit was though. So we will have to revisit that next time we go out to the schools. So what are these JIT kits and what are they all about? So we have this program in Salt Lake County called the Safe Neighborhoods. Safe Neighborhoods is basically designed to have information and resources available at elementary schools, because elementary schools are spread out across the city. They are considered to be a good location for rallying points for people, citizens of the city in case of an emergency. And the idea is, if you don't know where to go to your nearest elementary school, right? So if you don't have a set information about a rally point for your work or something like, or your church or something like that, then you can go to the nearest elementary school, and that will be a rallying point for the citizenry in the case of an emergency. The idea being that we are able to help each other and support each other until outside help can become available. So the Safe Neighborhood Program, basically, we'll go ahead and run this video real quick and it talks about it.
Safe Neighborhoods program was designed to be activated after 7.0 earthquake in Salt Lake County. There's sufficient spreading in the Salt Lake segment of the Wasatch Fault to have this earthquake today. Earthquakes, unlike tornadoes or hurricanes where you may have days, weeks, or even as little as hours, earthquakes, you don't know they're going to happen until they're actually happening.
It's different than a hurricane. A hurricane, you can see it coming. When we get this thing, it's out of the blue.
Especially after an earthquake, you're probably not going to be able to contact anyone. Being self-reliant and self-sufficient and being able to take care of you and your family and having a plan already in place is probably one of the most high priority things that you can do. This is the exact thing that the Safe Neighborhoods program addresses. It teaches people what they need to do to be prepared for themselves and their family, where to go after an earthquake, and how they can become involved in their neighborhood to be actually part of the solution. The tagline for the Safe Neighborhoods program is grab your kid, walk to school. And essentially what that means is you take your 96-hour kit, not only you, but you, anyone else in your family, you grab your 96-hour kit and get to the school, because the elementary schools across Salt Lake Valley are going to be those hubs that are going to be used for reunification and people to get information on what to do. First place people can go to get information on the Safe Neighborhoods program is obviously the website. It's www.safeutah.org. But to get an in-depth knowledge of what the program is, what it's about, why it was created, and how they can get involved, check with your local emergency operations manager to see when a Safe Neighborhoods orientation is going to be scheduled in your neighborhood or your area. Also, the Safe Neighborhoods website is where you can find out when and where trainings are going to be held, as well as additional information on things like your 96-hour kit. And there are going to be short video clips and things in addition to this one on things that people do to prepare themselves, their family, and other information about the Safe Neighborhoods program.
To count on yourself, be self-reliant, be self-sufficient, and be able to do that for at least a week.
So how many people have a 72-hour kit? How long is 72 hours?
3 days.
3 days, right? So what happens after 3 days?
Keep the goods out.
Murray City is actually recommending a 120-hour kit. Have enough for 5 days, they say. Because when they look at how long it takes for FEMA to actually get involved, or the Red Cross even to get involved and get resources into an affected area, it can be up to 5 days. Could be longer. So if you have the resources, it certainly does not hurt to have more stuff. But Murray City is recommending a 120-hour kit. So keep that in mind as you're planning what you've got in your preparedness at home. We've got somebody, Vern has joined us on the Zoom. Hi, Vern. You're coming in a little late, but you'll be able to watch the recording later. So, all right. So again, what the idea here is, the schools are around, right? So you have your individual or your household kit or infrastructure, you have your supplies and things that you need for yourself. The neighborhood provides you with a resource to communicate, reunite, and find shelter. It's quite likely that your home may be not livable or not accessible after an earthquake. I don't know about you guys' homes, but my house was built in the 70s and it's a brick on frame structure. And I don't expect it to stay up in the event of a major earthquake.
Mine's house, first way to go.
Yeah, because your house is 100 and something years old, right? So, you know, who knows what's going to happen to your place, right? Your house has been here since
1905.
yeah, so more than 100 years. So,
Are the elementary schools designed differently? Or is it just that there's enough elementary schools for people to go to?
my understanding is that there are enough elementary schools around the city and they are close enough to people. The goal of having the elementary schools was that they are generally within walking distance of people in the city, right? Because the roads may not be passable for vehicle traffic. So being able to walk somewhere and get into contact with other people was kind of the reason why the elementary schools were chosen. And they specifically did not choose the high schools and junior highs for this because they are not as local as the elementary schools. So.
Well, and to answer that question, from my knowledge, the schools that were built probably for mid-80s are probably not built to seismic codes.
They probably are not likely to survive and be standing either, but they provide you with a location to go to.
Yes.
And they typically have a good sized field around them where you could set up a tent or something. if you
Yeah.
had to, right?
Yeah, so it's still a good gathering place, but don't rely on it to be shelter.
Don't expect it to be a shelter location. In fact, chances are good you won't even be able to get into the building right away. So one of the things that they recommend on here is registering for the reverse 911 system. And what this is basically a system, it's kind of like the emergency broadcast system, where the government officials can get a message out to everyone. I think most people have cell phones these days, and most of the cellular networks have that reverse 911 system built into them, so that you can get that. I think they've used it for the Amber Alerts. You've ever gotten like an Amber Alert pop up on your phone? I think it's the same system as that. So certainly something that you should look into. And there's a link to register for that right here. Basically, you just give them your phone number, and that's all that they need. So other information that's on here, there is a section on training, and there's not a whole lot here, but they do want to come out into the various areas of the city and present information about this program. They also have a section on the kits, and we'll go into that a little bit. So they recommend a 96-hour kit, which is 4 days. Murray City's saying 120. I would go with 120 just to be as prepared as you can be. But they do have some recommendations here on what you would want to have in such a kit. And when we're done going through this, I've actually got a presentation from Bountiful CERT that I thought we could watch, that they talk about the kinds of things people put in their kits and how useful or not useful those things happen to be. So you can go through this list and see what's in there. And then these are the JIT kits here. And it says specifically, the JIT kits do not contain everything a neighborhood hub will require. They provide guidelines about how to manage, operate, and communicate within the hub. All materials are designed to be easily understood by every community member, right? There's guidelines to support a planning group unique to your neighborhood, including how to familiarize new members with the plan and conduct exercises to refresh the knowledge and capabilities of the existing members. So this is not a kit that has first aid gear in it. It doesn't have blankets in it. It doesn't have sleeping bags or anything like that in it. It's a kit of information, okay? So it talks here about the mission of the safe neighborhood. I'm not gonna sit here and read all of that to you. And then it talks a little bit about the program. This is very similar to the video that we already watched. We don't need to watch it again. But yeah, so the information is on this Safe Neighborhood website, safeutah.org, and you can find the information that you need. Now, there's also a section on here with maps. And if you look at, for example, Murray, you'll see the list of the schools in Murray, and you can identify which school is closest to you. For here, it's going to be either Grant or Viewmont. Grant is just over that way, and Viewmont is right down there. But if you look at this, it'll actually take you to a map that shows where that school is and what the area around it looks like. Theoretically, it will.
Small quake.
There it is. There it is. So this is a PDF, so you can actually zoom in on this, right? So this shows the area that Grant would be responsible for. Grant is right here, and we are right now right here. So, but yeah, so you can review this and see what neighborhoods are encompassed by your school's area. And of course, the other towns, cities within Salt Lake County are also participating in this. So there, you know, if you were to look at a blow up of this, you'd see other districts as well represented. So so the other thing that I wanted to pull up was the fire department. This is on the Murray City webpage, and they have a section on the fire department here where they talk about what the role of the fire department is. And one of the things that I found on here was a section on community education. And so if you look here, they actually talk about community education. There is a CERT class. In fact, that's why we're meeting here tonight and not at Station 81, because the CERT class is at Station 81 tonight. This is the Community Emergency Response Team, and they will, who here has taken the CERT training? So several people have taken it. someone want to share what kinds of things they go over in that?
Dripping. This is what it's called, where they kind of tap up. Dripping.
Yeah, they try to teach you a few things that you might need to do to support your community in the absence of the fire department being able to get there. As far as medical,
Maybe help get people out of the building, but
rescuing,
make sure you
evacuating
stay
buildings.
safe. You stay safe first before you go in, because you just get out of the problem.
Yeah, they teach you some priorities.
So I know they do things like show you how to put out a fire and stuff like that with
Yeah,
a fire
yeah.
extinguisher and things like that. So that,
Basic triage, but then it's like,
Move on.
yeah, so
Yeah.
like if someone hurt bad, but you can save 50 people in the next room, you're going to that 50 people and leaving that guy behind. It's kind of harsh
triage.
reality, but it's like, yeah.
So they have this information. They also do first aid CPR classes. We will probably set something up to have them do the CERT training for the club in conjunction with our club meeting sometime this year. So I know I've talked with Nick about doing that, and they are definitely on board with doing that. So anybody who hasn't had that CERT training will be able to do that. Now, my understanding is that the training is free, but if you want the kit that comes with it, you got to pay like 35 bucks or something like that. So that kit includes some, like a first aid kit, some supplies, a helmet. Well, I don't know what
I
else.
think I wound up buying a better helmet.
The CERT book.
The cert book is the most important thing, because it has everything in there.
Yeah. But I think, I know we paid like 25 bucks and got like a backpack that was made for a grade school kid, because it's like, it wouldn't fit me.
Some
So,
ways to keep it all together.
yeah, I got my own backpack now with an upgraded helmet, and, you know.
Yeah. So the other thing that's on here is a section on emergency preparedness. And here they do talk about this emergency notification system. That's that reverse 911 system that we talked about. And they also talk about the Be Ready Utah and the things that Salt Lake County is doing, and a guide to home safety. There's also this emergency handbook, which I actually have a copy of right here. And this is actually a really good resource. You can take this and print it out. It's already formatted for printing, and it has a lot of really good information in here that you would want to have on hand in the event of an emergency. They talk about 96-hour emergency kits in here as well. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting that we had mentioned it before, I know in a meeting, but this household personal information, right? So have a list of everybody who's in your household, the information about them, how to contact them, their cell phone, whatever, for adults and children who live within the home. Also, identify your family meeting place inside the neighborhood and outside the neighborhood if the neighborhood is not accessible, right? And a list of emergency contacts. These are family contacts, right? So somebody who lives locally and someone who does not live locally, so you can get in touch with someone, or someone who is trying to help you can get the information that they need to get in touch with someone on your behalf. Also, emergency care authorization. This would be very useful in the event that a child, for example, was injured and they couldn't find the parent for whatever reason. This is basically authorizing someone to provide care for that child. Another thing that they have in here is neighbor information. So do you know who your neighbors are? Do a survey of your neighborhood, find out who your neighbors are and who's around, what they do, you know, that kind of thing. Some of your neighbors might be an amazingly good resource in the event that something happens. And I know we've talked about along those lines, having an idea of, you know, what kind of tools and equipment your neighbor has, or what their job is. If you have a neighbor who's a plumber and you've got a water leak because of an earthquake, that plumber is probably going to know what to do about it or how to deal with it better than you might. If you've got a neighbor who's a carpenter and you've got a collapsed ceiling or roof or something, they might have a better idea of what's structurally safe to be able to get in there and get at anything that you need to get at. Also, if they have particular tools, if your neighbor has a chainsaw and you don't, and a tree has fallen on your car, it might be helpful to know who around you has a chainsaw, right? So good information to have and to get that information out within the neighborhood. Also information about your house, like where your cutoffs are for your power and gas and water, so that you don't have to hunt for it in the event that something happens. You can pull this out and say, oh, I know exactly where I need to go for this. Go there and take care of it. Lots of good information in this handout. I highly recommend printing this thing out and keeping it somewhere where you can get at it. All right. From the fire department, I'll tell you how to get there. So from the fire department page, if you go to that emergency preparedness section, it's this first link here, emergency handbook. I'm going to put the links to all of this stuff on our club website as well. So it'll be there. But yeah, this link to the emergency handbook is what this is right here. So this is basically just a PDF file that has a ton of information in it that would be very valuable in the event of an emergency. Let's see. What else did we have? So the other thing that I have, how are we doing on time? We're doing good. Okay, so this is a video that was presented. Get this out of the way. Thank you, YouTube. I don't want to pay you any money. So this is a video that was presented by Bountiful's emergency response team, their CERT team. And it's an analysis of the Marshall Fire in Colorado and how people responded to that and what went on. And this is actually, I found this really good. So I thought, since I figured it wouldn't take us the whole hour and a half to go over that other information. This is just an hour long, but the meat of it is within about 50 minutes. So I figured we could go ahead and watch this. I have previewed this and it's good. So yeah.